7 people are inside the Trickett family cottage at Malin Bridge when the wall of water hits. The house vanishes in 3 seconds. It is 11:30 p.m. on March 11th, 1864. A wave 40 feet high is tearing through the Loxley Valley at 18 miles per hour. The sound reaches people before the water does. Witnesses will later describe it as a roaring like thunder, a noise that seems to come from everywhere at once, from the hills themselves. Some think it is a storm, some think it is an explosion at the mills. By the time they understand what they are hearing, the flood is already at their doors. The wave carries boulders, trees, and pieces of buildings. It carries iron machinery from the grinding wheels upstream. It carries bodies. In the village of Low Bradfield, closest to the dam, entire streets are scraped down to bedrock. The water does not flow around obstacles. It removes them. To understand how this happens, you have to understand what Sheffield is in 1864. This is Britain's Steel City. Population 185,000. The forges and foundries run day and night. The grinding wheels that sharpen blades need water to turn them. The workers need water to drink. The city is thirsty, and the rivers cannot keep up. So the Sheffield Waterworks Company builds a solution. The company chairman is Mark Firth, one of the most powerful industrialists in England. His family's steelworks supplies armour plate to the Royal Navy. When Firth wants a reservoir, he gets a reservoir. The man who designs it is John Towlerton Leather, a respected civil engineer with projects across the north of England. The man who builds it is Samuel Hamerton, a contractor with decades of experience. Together, they construct Dale Dyke Dam in the hills above Sheffield. It is an earthen embankment dam, 95 feet high and 500 feet wide. When completed, it will hold 700 million gallons. It is the largest reservoir in England. Construction takes nearly 6 years. There are problems along the way. The hillside leaks. The embankment settles unevenly. In February 1864, with the reservoir nearly full, a crack appears across the outer face of the dam. Workers fill it with clay. They call it puddle. The crack keeps moving. On the morning of March 11th, the reservoir is finally filled to capacity for the first time. A contractor named John Gunson notices something wrong. There is a crack running along the embankment. He orders workers to lower the water level, but the outlet pipes are too small. The reservoir drains at about 4 inches per hour. The crack is growing faster than that. By evening, Gunson is watching the crack by torchlight. At 11:15 p.m., he sees water seeping through the embankment. He sends a man on horseback to warn the villages below, but there is no system for this, no alarm bells, no telegraph wires. The rider makes it 3 miles before the dam fails. At 11:30 p.m., the embankment collapses. 700 million gallons of water drop into the valley. The wave is 40 feet high at the breach. It will travel 8 miles to Sheffield, destroying everything in its path. By morning, 270 people will be dead. 800 homes will be destroyed. The damage will total £400,000. And 3 men will stand before a coroner's jury, waiting to hear who is responsible. 5 o'clock in the evening. The rain has slowed to a drizzle. A man named John Gunson walks along the top of the Dale Dyke Dam. Gunson is not an engineer. He sells gunpowder to the water company. But he lives nearby, and he knows what a dam should look like. What he sees now stops him cold. A crack, running along the outer embankment, close to where the outlet pipes enter the structure. The crack is small, maybe an inch wide, but it should not exist at all. Gunson finds the contractor's foreman, a man named John Craven. The two of them stand in the fading light and watch water seep through the embankment face. This is not overflow from the top. This is water pushing through the dam itself. Craven summons workmen. They carry clay and puddle up the embankment slope. They pack the material into the crack. They stamp it down with their boots. For a few hours, the repair seems to hold. By 9 o'clock, it is clear that it has not. Water seeps through the new packing. The crack grows. What started as a thin line now stretches to 3 inches across, then 4, then 6. Gunson sends a messenger racing toward Holmfirth. John Towlerton Leather, the chief engineer who designed this dam, is 30 miles away. Even on a fast horse, even with good roads, he cannot possibly arrive in time. The men on the dam face a simple arithmetic problem. The reservoir holds roughly 700 million gallons of water. The outlet pipes, which run through the embankment itself, can drain 450,000 gallons per hour. At maximum flow, emptying the reservoir would take 65 days. Gunson orders the valves opened anyway. He orders men to keep packing clay into the crack. He orders lanterns brought up so they can see what they are fighting. But the dam is already dying. The crack exists because of choices made years earlier. When workers built this embankment, they layered earth and rubble across the valley floor. Standard practice called for a central core of puddled clay, a waterproof spine running from bedrock to crest. Dale Dyke has no such core. The embankment is earth all the way through. The outlet pipes made things worse. They run directly through the embankment, entering on the reservoir side and exiting below. Where pipe meets earth, compaction is difficult, settlement is uneven, water finds pathways. The crack Gunson spotted at 5 o'clock is not a surface wound. It is the symptom of water already moving through the dam's interior. The embankment is saturated. The structure that holds back a small ocean is turning to mud. At 11:15, the men on the dam hear a sound they will never forget. A deep grinding roar. A section of the outer embankment, roughly 50 feet wide, detaches and slides down the slope. For a single moment, the reservoir holds. A thin wall of earth remains. Then that wall gives way. Water explodes through the breach. Not a trickle, not a stream. A solid column of water carrying stone and timber and chunks of the dam itself. The reservoir begins to empty, not at 450,000 gallons per hour, at a rate beyond calculation. Below the dam, 8 miles of valley stretch towards Sheffield. 250,000 people sleep in the darkness. They have no warning. The flood is already moving. The wave leaves the dam site at 32 feet high. It travels at 18 miles per hour. In 45 minutes, it will reach Sheffield. 8 miles of valley lie between. Low Bradfield takes the first blow. The village sits half a mile below the dam. Residents have perhaps 90 seconds of warning. The roar arrives before the water. Stone cottages built to last generations collapse in moments. 13 people die here. The church survives. The graveyard will fill quickly in the days ahead. The flood descends through the Loxley Valley, picking up momentum and debris. Trees snap. Bridges vanish. The mass of water now carries timber, stone, furniture, livestock and bodies. It is no longer just water. It is a grinding wall of destruction, 40 feet wide in places. Dam Flask disappears. Homes built along the river are obliterated in seconds. Families asleep in beds are swept away before they can stand. The geography here funnels the flood, compressing its power. Stone walls meant to contain mill races shatter like glass. At Hillsborough, the valley widens slightly. The flood spreads, but loses none of its violence. The Stag Inn stands near the water's edge. Joseph Dawson tends bar. 8 patrons drink inside. The building is solid, Yorkshire stone, it does not matter. The flood hits at 11:47. The inn collapses instantly. All 9 people inside die. Their bodies will be found scattered across a quarter mile. Rescuers later discover corpses lodged in trees here. The water reached 15 feet above normal ground level. People caught outdoors had nowhere to climb that the flood could not follow. Malin Bridge becomes the epicenter of death. 102 people die at this single location. The wire mill operates a night shift. Workers inside have no warning. The building fills with water and debris in seconds. Entire families living in mill housing perish together. The Cleacombe family loses all 8 members, parents and 6 children, gone in 1 minute. The flood continues to Owlerton. More homes collapse. More bodies join the debris field. The water spreads wider here, but remains lethal. Factory walls crumble. Machinery worth thousands of pounds becomes scrap metal and murder weapon combined. Neepsend sits at the industrial heart of the valley. Rawson's steel mill employs 200 workers. The flood destroys it completely. 200 jobs vanish overnight. The economic devastation will outlast the physical damage by years. Finally, the flood reaches the River Don. The narrow valley opens into Sheffield proper. The water disperses, the killing slows, but the damage is done. 800 homes destroyed, 4,000 people homeless before dawn, 693 animals drowned, cattle, horses, pigs and sheep. Factories flattened across 8 miles. Some survivors cling to wreckage for hours. 12-year-old Mary Foster grabs floating debris as her home collapses around her. She holds on for 2 hours in darkness and freezing water. She lives. Many who grab the same debris do not. Bodies surface for weeks. Some travel miles downstream. Others lodge in debris piles and go undiscovered for days. Some are never identified. They are buried in mass graves, marked only with numbers. By dawn on March 12th, Sheffield wakes to a valley transformed. Black mud coats everything. Debris stretches for miles. Corpses lie in fields, in trees, against walls. The reservoir that took 3 years to build has emptied in under an hour. 244 people are dead. The water recedes. The valley falls silent. And then come the questions. On March 15, 1864, Coroner John Webster convenes an inquest at the town hall in Sheffield. The jury comprises 16 local men. Their task is straightforward. Determine how 270 people came to die in a single night. For 4 days, witnesses file through: engineers, workmen, survivors, the company men. John Towlerton Leather takes the stand. He is the engineer who designed Dale Dyke Dam. He supervised its construction. He approved the embankment that gave way. He insists the dam was sound. He cannot explain why it failed. Other testimony tells a different story. Workers describe corners cut. They speak of the embankment's core, how it was built in winter, how frost got into the earthwork. They mention the pipes running through the base, the settling that occurred around them, the cracks that appeared and were dismissed. The jury deliberates. Their verdict arrives on March 19th. There has not been that engineering skill and that attention to the construction that there ought to have been. The words are careful, measured. They point to negligence without quite naming it. The dam failed because the people who built it did not build it well enough. The jury calls it an accident. Coroner Webster accepts this framing. No criminal charges follow. John Towlerton Leather walks out of that hearing a free man. He continues practicing as an engineer. He designs more waterworks. He dies in 1885, never having faced prosecution for the deadliest dam failure in British history. The Sheffield Waterworks Company does pay. Under pressure from Parliament and public fury, it establishes the Flood Claims Commission. Over the following months, the Commission processes 7,500 individual claims. Farmers who lost livestock, mill owners who lost machinery, widows who lost husbands, children who lost everyone. The final sum reaches £275,000. In today's money, roughly 35 million. The company pays every penny. It admits no liability. Parliament moves faster than Parliament usually moves. By 1865, legislators passed the Waterworks Clauses Act. For the first time in British law, reservoir dams require independent inspection. Engineers can no longer certify their own work. Outside eyes must verify that structures holding back millions of tons of water are actually safe. The rules that should have existed before Dale Dyke now exist because of it. In Sheffield, the dead require attention. Many bodies were never identified. Many were never found at all. The city arranges a mass burial at Sheffield General Cemetery. Workers dig long trenches. They lower in the coffins row after row. A monument rises above them, granite and grief, listing the names of those who could be named. The final confirmed toll stands at 270. Some historians count 240. Others say 280. The true number drowned that night will never be known with certainty. Parish records were incomplete. Entire families vanished. Some victims washed miles downstream and were buried where they lay. Dale Dyke Dam is rebuilt by 1875. The new structure uses improved methods, better compaction, more careful engineering. It stands today, holding back the waters of the Loxley Valley. Britain has never suffered another major dam disaster. Not in the 160 years since. The regulations born from that night, strengthened over generations, have held. 270 people died to write those rules.